and now could become the NBA's youngest head coach at 34 years old. And we'd be remiss not to also mention that Mazzulla was arrested twice at West Virginia, once in 2008 for underage drinking and aggravated assault. He pled guilty, paid a fine, and then again in 2009 for domestic battery after an incident at Morgantown Bar.
Wow. Yo, welcome back to another episode of the Ruling Class Podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Didi, back up in this witch with another video. And yo, I still got my same two goals. I'm trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by October. My second goal is I'm trying to drink some of this water. And I'm thirsty for both goals, and I need your help to do it. The way you can help me is to like this video, subscribe, share this video, and comment on this video. But don't worry, I'll give you a sec to do that. All right, look, before we get into the video, let me just say this now. I'm going to go ahead and go out on the limb and say that I believe that Malika Andrews, at this point, I believe that she will be fired from ESPN. I believe that she will be fired, and very rarely will you ever hear me root or advocate for someone to lose their job or even trying to guess if somebody will lose their job. But at this point, I see that she's going to put ESPN in a really tough position, in a really tough spot. And I think the people, if you will, are going to force ESPN to move this woman out of this position. So for those of you who don't know about this situation and everything that's going on with this coach, with the Boston Celtics, please click this link up top, and I'll fill you in with all the updates and everything you need to know. But for those of you who are up to date, following the heated exchange that she had with Stephen A. Smith, where he completely owned this woman and exposed her, in my opinion, she decides to go on live television either the same day or the very next day and cover the story of the new coach who will be replacing the former coach, who is, as we all know, currently serving a 1-year suspension. In the midst of covering this story, she decides to randomly and irresponsibly mention his arrest history from 13 years ago in college that have absolutely no bearing and have no relevance to the story of him becoming the new head coach for the Boston Celtics. Check out the video.
And Woj, you reported that Joe Mazzulla will be the interim head coach here. You can see his resume on your screen. He's been a Celtics assistant coach the last 3 seasons after spending the previous 3 seasons at Fairmount State. And he played for West Virginia between 2006 and 2011, and now could become the NBA's youngest head coach at 34 years old. And we'd be remiss not to also mention that Mazzulla was arrested twice at West Virginia, once in 2008 for underage drinking and aggravated assault. He pled guilty, paid a fine, and then again in 2009 for domestic battery after an incident at Morgantown Bar. The domestic battery case never went to trial. It was settled in August of 2009. He paid a $100 fine and court costs, plus had to do 40 hours of community service. Now, that was 13 years ago. He settled and paid both fines. So, Woj, why are the Celtics choosing him as their next head coach?
Well, let's start with this. This is somebody whose character they really believe in, whose leadership they really believe in.
I don't know if I've ever seen this before. I don't know if I've ever, if I'm that coach, or if I'm that coach's wife, I am suing. I don't know if I sue ESPN. I don't know if I sue her. How dare you? This new coach has done absolutely nothing wrong. He is not in the news for anything negative. This woman goes on live television and decides to randomly bring up something he did in college. 2 petty charges that aren't even important or relevant to the situation. Malika Andrews is a classic example of why people with extreme ideologies should not work in journalism. They should not be journalists. This woman is emotionally unequipped to do her job on a professional level. And it is clear here. I'm watching this woman in this news clip, And I'm looking at her eyes. It looks like she's been crying, or she's on a verge of crying. At this point, it's personal. It's clear that it's personal for this woman. Her extreme ideology is hyperfeminism, and it couldn't be any more blatant here. You go on live television and mention something about this man that isn't even warranted. Why did you mention that? And I like how Woj cleaned it up a little bit, and he said, well, they hired him because they trust his character. Why did you just mention that about him? Let me say this. Malika Andrews was hired by ESPN, I believe like a couple of years ago. And I think what they were doing, what they were shooting for, I think she's supposed to be like the new face for melanated women. I think she's supposed to be the spokesperson on ESPN for colored women. But let me be the first to say, Malika Andrews is not who we think she is. Or I should say, Malika Andrews is not who people think she is. I 100% believe that woman is a wolf in sheep's clothing. I believe, and I really hate to make this about a race thing, but it appears to me that she has it out for so-called black men. There is something there, and I believe her boyfriend is a Caucasian man. But I believe there's something there. She has some sort of history that isn't a good history with black men. I'm willing to say that that's probably the case here, because I don't know if I've ever seen a person do that. She was like, we'd be remiss not to mention something that he did over a decade ago in college. We all have histories. What was the point of doing that? I'm willing to go out on the limb and say this woman will be let go from ESPN. She's 27 years old. People have been blamed on her age. No, 27. I understand it's not 47, but 27, you're an adult. To go on here and let your emotions get the best of you, and you mentioning the arrest history of a coach that has done nothing wrong in recent history, I think that warrants her to lose her job. And I'm willing to bet that that's what's going to happen. She is not who we think she is, and I think her true colors are coming out. I'm 38 hot right now. I cannot believe what I just witnessed. Wow.
Oh yeah, Diddy got a podcast.